Day 7 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. The word I have on my mind today is oligarch. Now, I have heard that word oligarch a lot lately as a buzzword, but I always thought it just meant billionaire, and it does just mean billionaire, and billionaires have been around for a while. I remember hearing when Vince McMahon was a billionaire of the WWE, and that was back when I used to watch wrestling much more often than I do now. These billionaires who have more money than they could ever spend in 10 lifetimes, or if they do spend it, they spend it on things that people don't need, are going to learn very, very soon that the majority of people do not respect or want them in their presence or in their midst or in their lives in any way. And that includes continuing to use their services like Amazon and Netflix and Twitter and these kinds of things. Now, this doesn't mean that we run screaming in a panic to delete and to unsubscribe and these kinds of things. It means we step back and say to ourselves, what's important to me? And it is not important to me to get my cat litter delivered to my door. I can just go down the street and buy it at the store. Who knows who I'll meet when I do that, and who knows what kind of exercise I'll get to strengthen my body and my mind. I might get some more fresh air than I would have gotten before, and certainly that Amazon driver doesn't want to haul cat litter to my door anyway. So this next 4 years of ignoring the Trump administration is an opportunity for us to straighten ourselves out in the face of these people who obviously do not have our best interests at heart and only think of us as a means to increase their wealth. Day 8 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. The word on my mind today is Maddow. Now, I don't mind Rachel Maddow. I kind of like Rachel Maddow, actually. I was listening to her when she was still on the radio before she was even at MSNBC. But the fact that they have announced that she's coming back to 5 nights a week for the first 100 days of the Trump administration tells me not only is she not ignoring the Trump administration, she is not ignoring the fat paycheck that was handed to her to try to get those ratings back up, because you know that after the election, they went quite down into the depths of hell. And I cannot blame this giant corporation for wanting to get their cash cow back and get that money flowing once again. So, of course, they went back to Rachel Maddow to ask her to come back. And I'm just not buying it. I don't know about you. She is not ignoring the Trump administration. In fact, she is going to be getting on there every night to tell us everything about the Trump administration. And how does that fit in with ignoring it? It does not. Now, if Rachel is going to do a show about fishing, or I know she did a documentary like that somehow, or just about her life as a very, very rich lesbian, that'd be great, because I enjoy rich lesbians. Every rich lesbian I've interacted with seemed pretty nice to me. But as someone who is supposed to be entrusted with giving me information that is going to make my life better, I just don't think that's what's up. So unfortunately, I will not be watching Rachel on MSNBC, but I do wish her the best. And as far as anyone else who watches her decides to use their time to get information that probably is just not going to make them very happy or make their life better, well, I wish you the best. It is nice to have a TV on, I guess. It emits a nice little glow, but I ain't going to be there. I'm going to be somewhere else, and that is going to be ignoring the Trump administration. Day 9 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I want to talk about the concept of sense memory. You know, sense memory is a very powerful thing. And in order to protect ourselves from having our senses triggered by a voice, for example, that we don't want to hear, we need to shut that voice off. As I have said, the entire concept behind 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration is to reclaim the time for ourselves that we would normally be spending worrying about what's going to happen, getting information about what's going to happen, reacting to the information we get about what's going to happen. We don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be doing that. I want to reclaim that time and use it for things that make my life better, happier, more joyous, and more productive. So in this particular case, when I hear that voice, I just shut it off, and I don't go running over to the phone or running over to whatever and shut it off in haste, because that in itself is a reaction. I just don't want to react. I am training my mind to let this information come in and let it go right back out. And that is what I am doing when I just reach over and say, no, I don't, sorry, I just don't want to hear that voice, because that voice provokes in me a reaction that I just don't want to feel, that I don't think is physically, emotionally, psychologically healthy. So As I continue to ignore the Trump administration for 1,461 days, I will be graciously, generously, and gingerly reaching over to whatever piece of electronics that is emanating that voice into my face and just turning it all the way to the left, turning it to 0. Day 10 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Today, I want to remind myself to not listen to the news. When I tune into some of these podcasts or any of these TikToks or any of these news sources, I am constantly reminded that they're trying to cover this administration as if it is coverable. I understand what they're doing. They're earning a paycheck. They're earning a living. I respect that. But the fact of the matter is, to be able to earn a living and to claim that paycheck, they've got to cover the Trump administration as if there's something to cover. And there is nothing to cover. The fact of the matter is that this administration will go all the way to the bottom for only one reason: money and power. And when that is what is going on, well, what kind of news is there to listen to? What is important is protecting our peace, using our time to do the things in life that we want to do that have nothing to do with the Trump administration. In fact, they have to do with ignoring the Trump administration. So get out there, protect your peace, reclaim that time, and use it to your best advantage to be the person you want to be. Day 11 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Part of surviving and actually thriving out of this situation is being good to yourself. Now, when I think of being good to myself, I don't think, oh, let me eat this, or let me spend this, or let me acquire that, etc., etc. It's not about indulgence, but it's not about depriving myself either. It's about finding satisfaction and pleasure in things that maybe I didn't think I was going to find satisfaction and pleasure in. That might be just sitting in a room quietly. That might be just looking at a flower. That might be just simply saying hello to a stranger on the street. Let's start appreciating the small things in life that we can only experience in the short time that we're here, and stop handing over little bits of paper to people who don't care about us. Breaking news, I am just sitting here waiting for a statement from the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in which he will assure the American people that the crash in D.C. was not his fault. More news soon. It was Biden's, Obama, and everyone else except for the orange Mussolini. Well, except for that last part, I do expect Donald's statement to blame the people you mentioned, and I also expect him to blame this accident on China, and to also mention that if he had been piloting that helicopter himself, this never would have happened. He's blaming DEI. I just heard this, and I just watched him in his press conference looking more disheveled than I think I have ever seen him. I find it extraordinary that this person has never once in their life taken responsibility for anything. I can't imagine what could ever happen to cause him to ever take responsibility for something. I guess like if he walks into a door one day, he might be like, that is the fault of my feet and legs? I don't know. Yes, he looks like he woke up and put more orange over the orange look. I have refrained from ever talking about the way Donald Trump looks. There is one joke that was made by Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller where he said that Donald Trump's hair looks like cotton candy made from piss. That is a brilliant joke, and Penn can tell it because he was on Celebrity Apprentice, so he has firsthand knowledge. I don't talk about the way people look. I think it's just a low blow. The way he looked today, it was just wild. The hair, the face, I didn't have my glasses on. There was like these white circles going, like it looked like it was like like white grease paint that like went like in a circle around his eyebrow and then down around the eye. No one will say shit to him. It is quite fascinating. And Melania probably sees it and she's like, looks great, honey. Day 12 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Let me be clear about something. I'm not looking for this administration to fail. I don't care. I'm looking for myself not to fail. And that is why I am ignoring the Trump administration. I have ideas about what I want to do with my life, just like you have ideas about what you want to do with your life.
If we seek to make the best version of ourselves a reality during the next 1,461 days of the Trump administration, then we need to ignore the Trump administration. The chaos, the angst, and the anxiety that is generated by the behavior and willful attacks on the American public by the Trump administration is just not something I have any time for. Do you? If it turns out that this administration succeeds in a way that I just couldn't have imagined, and things in America are just bigger and brighter and better for everyone involved, and all the concerns we have about rights being taken away, and people being mistreated, and the clock on progress being turned back 50 years, or maybe even 100 years, if all those concerns are unfounded, then so be it. But regardless of whether I believe it or not, it doesn't matter, because I am ignoring the Trump administration. Time is just too short to allow a politician to infect my consciousness like that. Unlucky day 13 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Josh, you're not doing a very good job ignoring the Trump administration if you're making videos about the Trump administration. This entire exercise is about creating new boundaries and setting new methods in order to deal with the incredibly egregious and offensive information that is spewed out by the Trump administration, but is also so pervasive that it is impossible to navigate around without considering how you will do the navigating. So when a massive tragedy happens, like the awful airplane accident in DC, which, as it turns out, a lot of the people who perished were children, it is impossible to ignore what is happening. And subsequently, being aware of what is happening and getting information about what is happening from an administration like the Trump administration, you know that you are going to get assaulted with responses from leadership that are only going to deepen the effects of this tragedy. Making videos is a way to come to terms with that and to connect with and communicate with community. Nothing has changed. Ignoring the Trump administration for 1,461 days is about efficiently building muscle memory. This allows me to efficiently consume bits of information that let me know just what the hell is going on around me, and not letting those bits of information reside within me to poison me, as so much of what comes out of the Trump administration does and will continue to do. The second point is to take that reclaimed time and energy, and in a case like this, sanity, and use it for creativity, which, in a case like this, is also about making videos about 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Day 14 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. Don't forget to use those block, delete, and not interested buttons. They are there so we can adjust what we are seeing, so we do not waste time on things that keep us from enjoying our lives. The key word is adjust. Social media feeds have the ability to apply filters to certain words. Use them. We choose when to take in information, not the other way around. Don't worry, enough will still get through to stay informed. Even when we read an angry troll comment, that angry troll has stolen some of our time. I do not block out of anger. I do not delete out of frustration. I do not press not interested out of fear. Simple, elegant, efficient solutions to the problem of receiving information intrusions. Information overloads are intent on debilitating us and knocking us off our feet so that somehow we forget the things that are good and important in life. We need our senses in good working order as we step into a reality that requires us to be strong for those around us who may be more susceptible and vulnerable. We must be ready to protect them. Hey, we made it. And you know what I mean by we made it? We were through 14 days of the Trump administration. You know what that means? We are 1% through. That's 1%, baby. We only have 99% to go. Now, I know the feelings out there are ominous, like, Josh, we're not going to have another election anyway, or so who cares? What are you talking about? Look, that is not what's up. We need to be optimistic. We need to be positive. We need to live our lives as if it is the last day of our life. And it doesn't matter what administration it is. You know that that is a verity that is taught to us as children. And if not, it should have been, because You should always live every day as if it is your last, because as we all know, because we have all experienced tragedy, we have all experienced loss, we all know that that is quite often the unfortunate tragedy of existence as we perceive it. So because we should be living every single day as if I cannot speak, live every day as if you might not be able to speak in coherent sentences, because we should be living every single day as if it is our last day. It doesn't really matter what the administration is, because government is a man-made up thing anyway. Now, like I said, I know it seems ominous and all these nefarious things are happening. Nefarious, crazy, untoward things have happened every day throughout all of recorded humanity. You open up that history book and you read things in there, and it's like, this must be fiction, because if it is not fiction, I cannot even wrap my head around the fact that what I am reading right now actually happened. Well, it has. We just happen to be, oh Jesus, we just happen to be living in our own little bit of it now. It blows my mind too. Like, I'm like, God, we're living in history. We are living in history. How about that? But here I am in a coffee shop on a Sunday, just drinking a coffee. Now, I don't have money in the bank. I ain't a rich guy. I ain't even what do you call it when you are not rich and you're the opposite of rich? What is rich spelled backwards? HIIR. Higher. I am higher. Not in that way. In the opposite of rich way. Look, I'm here in a coffee shop, just drinking a coffee, enjoying myself. So obviously life must be okay now. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm a Jewish man. I'm a gay man. Knocks might come at the door. Like, hey, we got all this other shit organized. We stole all the treasury, and now we're on to knocking on the doors of Jewish gay guys who have less than 10,000 followers. By the way, I would love to get into the Creator Fund, because I make long videos. I'm a perfect guy for that Creator Fund, but I still need another 1,500 followers or so. So if you are not following me, then maybe you should do that, because I am doing this series, 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, and I'm not going to stop until I am physically held back from doing it, or they take away this app, or I get that knock on the door for being Jewish and gay, like, hey, Josh, you're on 2 lists, and let's go. It's time to get in this van. Who knows? The point is, from today, yesterday, tomorrow, it is to live as if that's the only yesterday, today, and tomorrow we're going to get. And I'm going to do that. And I would like you to invite, oh, Jesus Christ, I would like to invite you to do that too. Day 15 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I am just trying to help myself. This is just a reminder that the internet is not real life. Social media is not real life. The amount of information that comes across my field of vision, even though I am ignoring the Trump administration, is still copious. And when I look around me, I'm at the P, when I'm at this particular establishment, I see people from all walks of life, colors, sexual orientations, ages, whatever. Maybe sometimes they're not even human, but even though that might be the case, I hear pleasant voices, pleasant conversations. Rarely are political. They're usually about things like the weather. They're usually about the things that we all can relate to and talk about. And when I go from here into the grocery store, for example, the big old supermarket where everybody shops, I see all sorts of people, and everyone's looking each other in the eye, and everyone seems pleasant. It doesn't seem fake. That's what I wanted to point out. It does not even feel like people are tolerating one another. It feels more than that. It feels like people are enjoying one another. Now look, what is going on right now in this timeline? This might not last. I don't know. Maybe the hammer is about to fall and we're going to feel it. But I know this. When I interact with information that is meant to make me not invest in what I am seeing with my own 2 eyes when I am out and about in a suburb of New York City where it is very, very mixed. I'm saying super mixed. Okay? White men are not the majority in my little town. When I am out and about and I see what I see, I have to remind myself that when I come across this information online that tries to invade my soul, that I have to take it with a grain of salt because it just does not reflect what is going on at the self-checkout at the Stop and Shop. Day 16 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Today, a reminder, there are plenty of good people in the world. I know that we wish that the people in power are people that we look to as holy, good people, WHOLLY. Depending on your persuasion, if you are a religious person and want to ascribe the HOLY, go right ahead. But obviously, we want to all look to the people who are in positions of power and people who are in positions of leadership as people that we consider good, that we can trust. And if they are people that we do not consider good and people that we can trust, well, that is unfortunate. But let us remember that we choose to decide how much power these people have over us and have over our minds. Now, granted, we don't know what the future brings. When I say power, obviously there are ways that people in leadership can restrict us, restrict our movements, and attempt to restrict how we live our lives. But for the most part, as I sit here in the P on a Tuesday morning, I know that I am allowed to conduct my thoughts in any way I see fit. So remember that these people who are in positions of quote unquote power, that is man-made positions of power, they do not have control over your minds. And in fact, the people that you do look to for leadership in this world, perhaps if they are less encumbered by being in positions of power, they are able to put out energy into the world that is more potent than they would have been able to otherwise. So please don't forget that you decide and I decide how much power other people have over us, and we should act accordingly. And in my particular case, I do not allow people who I do not find to be good people to have power over my thoughts and mind. I prefer to let in the good so that I can put it back out. Day 17 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I'm not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Contrast versus resist. The powers that be want us to conform to their ideologies. This is not something new. We have seen this throughout history. This is just our turn dealing with leaders, quote unquote, people in power who want us to conform to what they think and what they do and how they live. And of course, we don't do that. Of course, we don't conform to that. No more than we expect them to conform to ours. We are all living our lives. So this is not something that should be a surprise, but what might come as a surprise, and what I want to say is I am in day 17 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, is that this is an opportunity to contrast. And I don't say resist, because resist gives them power, as if we have something to resist. When I say contrast, I mean that when we are shown ideologies and ways of life that are so contrary to what we believe, if we believe in actual freedom, I am not talking about, hey, you're religious, therefore I don't agree with that. I am not saying, hey, you're straight and I don't agree with that. I am saying, if you are religious, if you are straight, please enjoy your time here and let me enjoy mine. So I don't give people the power of resist, but I do use the word contrast, because during this time of threatened oppression, I want to
make sure that I am being as personally expressive of who I am as an individual as I possibly can. And I encourage everyone around me to push yourself to keep that mind clear of the Trump administration. Keep that mind clear of powers that be that try to hold you down, and use your ever strengthening resolve to bring out the best version of yourself that you can, the most expressive version of yourself that you can, the version of yourself that no one else can ever be.